Hi and welcome back to the second video, and for this demo I'll be trying out Dungeons and Dragons Daggerdale, a role-playing game based off the original role-playing game. Or I suppose there could have been ones before it, but anyway, you know what I mean. Now I presume when you play the game you can create your own character, but in this demo you're given like this little preset here. I'm not really sure what all these stats mean, so I'm just applying stats randomly. Whatever, that one looks good, looks fine, whatever. You're gonna give me a name? Yeah, sure. What the hell? That name works. Now I guess I've never really been that much into tabletop games. I remember a friend of mine was really into the Warhammer series. I wasn't. Honestly, it's kind of an expensive habit to get into. All those figures and models don't come cheap. But anyway, we're treated to a little cutscene here.
Deep within the ancient dwarven mines of Tethia.
Made in PowerPoint, I presume.
A great tower has been constructed.
No, I'm just joking. I know it's the demo. They probably haven't got it pre-rendered yet.
Its creator is an agent of evil known as Restless.
He's a pretty restless guy.
Daggerdale will be mine.
Wait, did he say he works for Bane? When Daggerdale is in ashes, you have my permission to die. Now, if Bane was in this game, it would make it it would make it a must-buy. Ooh, fancy lights. So we're given the setup here. We have to go storm a tower, and honestly, that's something about these sort of dungeon crawlers I'm not too keen on. It's just the fact that it's all set in one dungeon, one grim environment. You know, I like a little variety. I like to go to forests and mountains and valleys and what have you, not just spend my time in one dungeon. I mean, dungeons are cool, don't get me wrong, but an entire game of it? You know, it's a real shame you can't play as a dwarf. Dwarfs are cool. When I used to play Golden Axe when I was younger, yeah, the dwarf was my favourite character.
For my ties to the Dark Centarum would place you in further danger. Please forgive me for forcing the hand of fate.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe they should have left this scene out. It kind of makes the game look a bit PlayStation-y. You know, a bit old-fashioned. But nevertheless, we get a story. And honestly, one criticism about Western RPGs is that they're pretty basic on the story. And I would have to agree. It's pretty basic. It's usually just, you know, kill the bad guys. Although, on the other hand, JRPGs do have a lot of story. But then again, you could argue it's a lot of it's convoluted and it sort of gets really complicated. Like one JRPG series which comes to mind is Kingdom Hearts. And I say that even knowing that it's not entirely Japanese, it's like half Disney as well. But anyway, with all the... If anyone knows that series, you should know about all the replicas and clones and whatever running around. The Heartless and the Whole Bodies. It gets quite complex. I mean, you can sort of know what's going on if you play all the games, but you know, even so. But anyway, the point is, Western RPGs are often too simple, and Japanese ones are often too complicated. That's what I'm trying to get across. Well, I guess that is a generalisation, but then again, this game isn't really a good example. I mean, it is essentially an evil guy has built a tower. Go stop. So anyway, talking about the gameplay, it's pretty simple here. You can see in the bottom corner, there's like a selection of commands. A basic attack, a range attack, a special attack, and a potion. Pretty standard RPG stuff. And I do wonder if this was meant to be cooperative, if there's meant to be more than one player. Because RPGs really usually are, or at least this type. Like I remember Baldur's Gate having cooperative play. Now about these genres, RPG, these sort of now about these fantasy RPGs, I have played a few in my time, not really a side follower, but yeah, I enjoy them. You know, hacking these little creatures is quite fun. You see, as I'm recording this commentary, I'm looking at the footage through the preview window, and I can't really read what they are. I think they're goblins or orcs. I can't actually read the text. But, yeah. Well, I was saying before about repetitive backgrounds. This underground cavern does look pretty fancy. It's got nice lighting, it's got, like, wood and flags, and it's nicely decorated. The feng shui is exceptional, by the way. But, yeah, but still, an entire game just crawling through a tower. Oh joy. Well, arguably, maybe I'm overthinking this. If you're a fan of this series, you probably just want to... This is probably what you want, exactly. Just go through tunnel and hack stuff. And I'll admit, the gameplay of this demo, it's really quite fun. It's quite intuitive, quite fast. You know, all you need is a button to press. And I've really got into it. I kind of worked out a strategy to use range attacks and then hack them as they come closer. Oh, and also go after the mage. Something I know about this genre is that if you're a warrior, you're usually weak towards magic. So that helps. Daggerdale. I'll admit that is a pretty cool name for an environment, at least. And you can see it does seem to be very mission based. I'm just talking to one guy, talking to another, but I guess that's the point. It's a tutorial. Now, to go back to the beginning of the demo, you sort of had a choice between the human warrior or the elf rogue, which is a kind of a shame. I would have liked to have tried out the dwarf character or the magician. I think he was a magician. Well, if he wasn't, I would be surprised, because, you know, you usually get a rogue, a warrior, and a wizard, I suppose, or a cleric. And here I try and go through the inventory system, trying to equip a different weapon, just to show how it works. And yeah, you've got a range of stats, a range of resistances, and like in all RPGs, you've got to worry about what your character's weak to, what their abilities are, speed, combat. Yeah, it's essentially combat with a little thought put into it. And honestly, I do like the idea of action RPGs. I've played just a couple in my time. And yeah, I find them definitely preferable to just standard fighting games. Because when it comes to fighting games, I find them a bit too simple. I find you just mash the same combo. But if there's an RPG element, you have to worry about strategy elements, weaknesses and stuff too. So it just adds another layer to it. And I was talking about how this character is simple, but then again, that is another positive, you could argue. The fact that in some RPGs you just want a blank slate to project yourself onto. You know, you don't need a character with a backstory or lots of cutscenes. You just want you just have this warrior, and then you customize him the way you want, and you're off, and that's what you want. And of course, another staple of Western RPGs is that they do stay in that Tolkien medieval fantasy genre, which I suppose can be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, you know, for example, people like dragons, and you're probably going to fight like a dragon or something, or an orc, or a troll, or whatever. But at the same time, you're not going to be surprised too much. But if you're a fan of this kind of fantasy, that's probably what you want, really. Yeah, just going for a massacre of these little creatures here. Little hexer. Anyway, you free the dwarves here, because dwarves are cool. I do love this little camp made out of bones of giant creatures. Although it's hard to believe these little creatures took down like a dragon or something. Anyway, you release them from the cages. I guess they were making them dance within those cages. And so on. And the dwarfs dug too heavily and too greedily. You know, on reflection, I should have named my character Conan. That would have been cool. Oh, so that's where the expression burning your bridges comes from. Now at this point I do remember there's like some warriors here, and there's a sharpshooter and a hexer. which is their equivalent of a mage or a shaman, I guess. Yeah. Eat axe. There we go. Can I axe you a question? Yeah, and at this point I've switched to this sort of scythe weapon. I forget what it's called, but yeah, I think it does less damage, but it's a bit faster. So I thought it was worth a shot. And there's barrels everywhere. A staple of games. So yeah, overall, I'll talk about the gameplay. Very fun, very fun. It's pretty much what you expect from a Dungeons and Dragons game. So if you're wondering, you know, will it work out? Yeah, the answer is probably yes. And out of nowhere, I presume is a stone golem. I think. You shall not pass, indeed. But hang on, I killed those guys. Anyway, the demo does something really cool here. Freeze frame. Do you want to buy the game or not? And since I'm recording, I select no. And that is pretty funny. I'll admit that is a pretty clever thing for the demo to do.